Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. You're buzzing as always, and I'm super pumped to have today's guest on the show, Bobby Zagotta, US CEO and Chief Commercial Officer at Bitstamp. Bobby came to Bitstamp from Kraken, where he served as Chief Commercial Officer, responsible for strategy, biz dev, marketing, M&A, research and analytics, and global growth initiatives. Before that, he was a Senior Managing Director and member of the executive team for CME Group, a global publicly traded financial exchange. As CEO of Americas and Global Chief Commercial Officer at Bitstamp, Bobby is responsible for strategy and growing the presence and business globally, as well as overseeing day-to-day operations in the Americas. Bobby and I have been trying to get a show going for a hot minute. We finally got it going, and I'm super excited. Bobby, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Matt, and glad we finally were able to make this work.
We did. You and I were playing quite the game of tag. That was me who dropped the ball more than you. I had some unfortunate bounces that came my way, and here we are. Pumped to have you on. You have a beautiful background. I feel like we got to start with that. Whereabouts are you right now?
Thank you. Yeah, we're in Michigan. We have a summer house here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it's a beautiful spot, and we absolutely love it here. And it's a good place to work. It's a good place to relax as well.
Probably nice and tranquil. No distractions besides maybe fishing, boating, all that kind of fun nature stuff.
Yeah, it's a little different than Chicago. You can say that.
I love that. Now, you have a very interesting past, and we could start at a multitude of places. The one place I'd love to start is the CME Group. I did not know what the CME Group was until I started trading when I just got out of high school and got into university. I, like many people, was a little would be an understatement, rather bored at uni, and I wanted to make some money. So I got into trading, and my mind was blown about the CME Group. In Canada, we're literally never taught about that at all, and it's such a big exchange. I don't know why we're taught about that. We hear about the NASDAQ, we hear about the NYSE, and of course, we hear about the TSX and the CSE with the Canadian Stock Exchange, which is the penny stock exchange of Canada. But we never hear about CME. And I've been fortunate to have a couple of people on the pod who worked at the CME before. It is a world-class institution, absolutely massive, and you got to grow that as well. I'd love if we could start by you telling us some awesome stories about your time at CME.
Yeah, happy to. And like you, I feel so fortunate that I was able to end up as part of that company. It wasn't by design necessarily. I started my career as an engineer. I ended up getting into strategy, consulting, and risk management, and I did a stint as a co-founder and CEO of a startup that we grew and sold. And coming out of that experience, I ended up advising companies on M&A strategy and integration type processes. And CME was a client of mine. And to your point, it was really my first deep dive into capital markets and really the extraordinary transformation of that industry. So, the CME Group was founded in the 1800s. It's I can't remember the exact year, but wild. it's 165 or 170 years old. It was the Chicago Butter and Egg Exchange to start with. And it was, a very necessary capability for our agriculturally based society, particularly in the Midwest, to manage their economics. And the CME, has been just an incredibly innovative leader in that space for many, many years. And it grew up as a mutual company, but ultimately IPO'd and became a public for-profit company. And, it's just really, really done an amazing job. So I learned a ton there. I did have the opportunity to join their executive team and lead a couple of different divisions for the company, and hopefully help contribute to their continued growth.
And one thing you said that sort of blew my mind, it started off as the butter and egg exchange. Is that legit?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And there were a few of these that started in approximately the same time. So the Chicago Board of Trade was another one that started in a similar time frame. They were ultimately acquired by CME Group. That's one of the deals I helped with. before I joined. And same thing in New York. You know, the NYMEX, the New York Mercantile Exchange, has a similar history. What happened was, you know, farmers back in the day, you know, fell victims to extreme supply and demand. So they
Right.
would, you know, work all summer, harvest all of their corn or wheat or pork bellies or what have you, and then they'd all bring them to market at the same time, and the price would plummet. And
Interesting.
and so they used futures contracts to be able to manage their price risk, and that in itself was an amazing innovation. But then over the next 100 years, you know, and the CME led the charge here, I believe, you know, really diversified that concept of futures contracts into trading and speculation and hedging across a whole range of assets, including oil and gas and, you know, financial instruments, et cetera. So yeah, it's a great story. It's a fascinating company and a great learning experience for me.
That's wild. What a story. Next part that we have to dive into, because you're one of the few people who actually has his or her finger on the pulse here, and that is sort of regulation and American adoption of crypto, and we'll segue also into the banking crisis. This has been absolute bananas. Obviously, we had the collapse of Silvergate, Signature Bank. It's not looking good. We're recording early August. This is going to air mid-August, but the U.S. debt also just got downgraded, or U.S. bonds, also just got downgraded as well. Things are looking rather bleak. Things are looking rather no bueno. What is going on right now in regards to the banking crisis? And then we'll segue into regulation and American adoption of crypto.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything going on in either of those spaces. I'm kidding. So yeah, obviously it's been an absolutely tumultuous year. And we'll start with the banking situation. So, and you know, Silicon Valley Bank was the first that was affected by the macroeconomic environment. I don't believe they had any material crypto holdings or anything like that, but they, I think, were the first to be really caught flat-footed by the rapidly rising interest rates versus how they were managing, you know, their debt portfolio, and then that put a lot of regional banks on notice. And a couple of those, so Silvergate and Signature, who also played an important role in the crypto ecosystem. So not only were these guys useful banking partners for a lot of players in crypto, but they had these real-time settlement networks that really reduced frictions for people participating with exchanges and with other kind of, you know, players in the ecosystem. It was very, you know, what I would say current in terms of how financial transactions should work: real time, fast, and you know, low cost. However, as you know, Silvergate voluntarily wound itself down. Signature was forced into a wind down situation, as I understand it, by their regulator in New York and also federally. You know, from my standpoint, I would love to have more information about the nuts and bolts of why wind down was the right answer for both those institutions. Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you know, it seems like it wasn't an obvious, or the only path. Let's say.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Another issue is the debt ceiling. This is pretty bananas. Everyone is hoping that President Biden and Congress will come to an agreement, whether it's short-term solution or long-term fix. This is a very touchy subject, and it would be a huge loss if I didn't ask you. So I must ask, Bobby, what is your 2 cents on the current debt ceiling issue, and do we have any solution that could potentially come into play over the next couple of months or years?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I wish I knew the answer to that question, but my perspective on it is it's really crucial, obviously, that we can bridge the yawning cavern between the two political parties operating in the U.S. and start to compromise, start to work together so that we don't get ourselves into a situation where we're on a slippery slope in terms of the role that we play in the global economy. So today, as you know. The United States has a very enviable position in the global financial services marketplace and the global economy. And that's not, a sovereign right that we have. That's just because of how the economies have played out. But
Right.
if the fundamentals of that equation change, such as, the credit worthiness of the country, such as even the role that the country plays in the emerging crypto ecosystem, these things are going to determine our role, the role of the U.S. in the evolving economies. That we shouldn't take it for granted. So I feel like a lot of the people on Capitol Hill are taking it for granted. But I think if we don't make some important and very decisive moves now, that's in jeopardy.
And speaking of important and decisive moves, the U.S. is also, and again, I speak as a Canadian here, but we usually follow in your guys' footsteps when it comes to a lot of regulatory climates. We, as in North Americans, are dropping the ball when it comes to crypto regulation. There's still nothing really solidified, and this can be a huge ball drop as we've seen dozens, if not hundreds, of really, really solid companies and people move to spots that are more open, like Singapore or the UAE. What's going on the regulatory talk right now? Is there any news? Is there anything to look forward to? Is there anything to be happy about currently with the U.S. regulatory crypto talk?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things I would point to globally, and I'll start with the U.S. So obviously the judgment in the Ripple case was a can't overstate the importance of that ruling to what I would call bringing some balance to the landscape, to the legal landscape, and to the conversation. Frankly, now that's that could be appealed. There was a recent ruling from a different circuit court that had a different take on the securities question. So it's certainly not a done deal, but what I felt like is the SEC's perspective was kind of unchecked from a legal perspective and from a marketplace perspective, and that Ripple ruling checked them, right? It it didn't say they're wrong. It didn't prove they're wrong, let's say, but it definitely brought them back to the right playing field to have a productive conversation. So that's a bright spot from a U.S. regulatory perspective. Another one is some legislative action. So there's two bills that have come out of committee, been approved by committee, the Agricultural Committee and the Financial Services Committee, and that of course doesn't mean it's just going to be a law tomorrow, but that's a huge step that we have not realized as of yet, to actually put some laws or a framework in place that the regulators can then enact. That's how it's supposed to work. And when we don't have that legislative foundation in place, the regulators can kind of act on their own, and that's what we're seeing, I think, with the SEC. I'm sure there's multiple opinions about what they're doing and how they're doing it, but from my perspective, it's not the most productive path. So I'll pause there. I've got some other international bright spots to share if you want to.
Yeah, no, the floor is yours. Keep going.
Yeah, so the other thing I would point to is Europe. So and you may not know this, Bitstamp was founded in Europe, and Europe is our primary base of business. It's about 65% of the business. We have a whole range of regulatory licenses there, and we do a tremendous amount of business with institutions and on the retail side.
Well, Bobby, your European business is larger than your USA business?
It's true.
Wow.
It's true. So
I would not have guessed that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you kind of 60 seconds on background. So Bitstamp was founded in 2011. We're the longest running crypto exchange today. And I was founded in Europe, and our global business is, based in the UK, where we have legal entities in other jurisdictions in Europe as well. And so, yeah, we have a very strong and growing U.S. business. We have a little bit earlier stage Asia Pacific business, but Europe is kind of Bitstamp's home court, if you will. And in Europe, Bitstamp is a household name. I would say in North America, we're still kind of building it. But one of the reasons I'm happy about that footprint for Bitstamp is because the EU has adopted this MiCA regulatory framework. And from my standpoint, this is a really good common sense regulatory framework that is specific to crypto and digital assets. It's not trying to retrofit, traditional assets or securities law or something else into the crypto space. It's a legitimate, specific, and well-defined framework. It's passportable across the EU when it comes into effect, which will be, I think, mid next year. And so what's happening is we're getting a lot of more inbound interest from corporations in Europe than even in the U.S. And obviously, it's still a healthy marketplace there. That's because corporations in Europe, whether they're hedge funds or banks or other types of players, now have more confidence to participate, and we think that's great, and we hope that the United States and other jurisdictions, take a hint from that.
Very interesting. I would have not known that. Why? Yeah. I mean, from the narrative standpoint, it seems like Europe is so far behind. And it seems like Europe also has very stringent rules. Like maybe I'm just completely off the pulse here, or why is that narrative true? Or perhaps it isn't true, but why would I and some of my peers perhaps would believe that narrative, I guess is the better question.
Yeah, I think that in many areas of law or society, there's that perception about the EU being a very, very tough bureaucracy, let's say, and right. difficult to create unified perspectives. And I'm certainly no expert on any of that, but from a crypto perspective, they have, in my opinion, just taking a strong step ahead of the U.S. And they've created clarity, or a level of clarity that will enable crypto players and other players, whether they're just individuals or companies, to participate. And in the US, it's still too high a degree of uncertainty.
Right. Good point.
Bitstamp has always positioned itself as a compliance-forward, organization. We were the first crypto company to ever get a license in 2016. And we think we've got the most extensive regulatory footprint in the business. And that's not because we love working with regulators as much as we just know it's necessary for broad adoption. We know that common sense regulatory frameworks are necessary to give people confidence. I just hope the U.S. can get there, in a reasonable amount of time. Otherwise, the innovation is gonna move, to Europe or move somewhere.
Very true. Folks, we're going to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. And when we get back, we are going to talk about some of the Bitstamp growth that we've seen. U.S. corporate customers up 14% quarter over quarter, retail verifications up 12%, and a bunch of other really good things moving and grooving over at Bitstamp. But until then, huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, Prime XBT. If you are a trader and you're looking for reliable and professional market data and performance, do go check out Prime XBT, as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promotion for listeners of the Crypto News Pod. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with Bobby. Bobby, you guys have grown in a pretty bananas bear market. I absolutely love to see this. I love when people who continue to grind see good results, especially in the bear market. It seems like everyone got the, pardon my French, shit kicked out of them over the last 18 months, give or take. And you guys continue to grow. How are you guys doing this? I'm looking at the stats in front of me. General markets, you guys are moving and grooving. US specific markets, you guys are moving and grooving. What are you and the team doing to make sure that Bitstamp continues to grow in such a shitty time?
Yeah, there's a few things I would point to. The first one is, as I alluded to earlier, our very strong regulatory compliance and overall governance kind of reputation and footprint. So coming out of FTX, and some of the SEC activities and even the banking crisis, to me, that has ushered in a flight to quality. So people being more choosy about who they partner with and why, and we're a beneficiary of that. So our global market share has tripled really since the FTX crisis last November, or the FTX debacle. And Bitstamp is viewed as very, very well managed, I think. So I'll give you one example. Bitstamp, just to give you a sense of who we are, Bitstamp made the decision. This was before my time, but made the decision in 2016 to become a globally financial audited entity. So, and they didn't just hire a regional accounting firm. They hired a Big Four accounting firm in 2016 to do a global financial audit, and we've done it every year since then. So we're the only crypto company on the planet that can say we've got 7 years of Big Four global
Legit
financial
auditing.
audits. Now, you got to think about what 2016 was like. Nobody was thinking that way in 2016. It was quite the opposite. Yeah. It was more like, let's burn the traditional financial services space to the ground. But Bitstamp has always been let's do it right kind of company. And because we get audited in a very rigorous way every year, we have burned in the process of doing things right. It's what we do. So because of that, we never got much credit for it until FTX. Now everyone's like, oh, actually, maybe this is the right model, and maybe I should care about who I partner with, not who names the stadiums, but actually, who's got the credentials and the governance in place. So that's a big part of the story. The other part of the story is I mentioned we're the longest running exchange. So we've been through a few of these market cycles, and we have the playbook, if you will. And the playbook is essentially, obviously we manage our costs very tightly in a bear market, but we invest in the product, right? So we use this time to perfect the experience for users, both institutions and individual retail investors. And that's where we've been able to maintain our onboarding. We've improved our onboarding processes. We've improved every aspect of the user experience, and we just make it easier and easier for people to participate with us. And that really helps our numbers a lot.
Oh, so refreshing to hear. Your line about we don't have our name on stadiums, that's too freaking good. Oh man, that's too good. It's still weird to think that that the Miami Arena is FTX and Staples Center is now Crypto. It's still a little weird, And that's
it is.
I don't know.
It is. I Super Bowl ads and things like this. I have my own kind of internal index. If there's like a tech company in any industry that's one of their kind of early stage investments, I think, all right, their days are numbered. That's basically that's my own bias, right? I could be wrong about that, but my bias is like, if you're still an early stage company, you got to be focused on the product. You should take every dollar, or not every dollar, but these are big price tag marketing investments that, in my opinion, should be plowed into the product.
No, it's very true as well. You guys also just partnered with BitGo. That seems like you two are a match made in heaven. I mean, two of the oldest and most reputable and trusted and audited firms in the space partnering together. That just seems like a match made in heaven. And that was announced, I believe, last week or the week before. Congrats on that. It seems pretty straightforward, but what does that partnership do for both you guys?
Yeah. We're longtime partner with BitGo. They've been our primary custodial services provider for many years. I'm not even sure how many. But to your point, the reason that partnership came into being and is so powerful today is because they approach the marketplace like we do. They're licensed. They're a trust company in the state of New York. They have license in other states as well. And so it enables us to deliver more confidence to the marketplace because, first of all, there's a little bit of separation between church and state. The exchange
well said.
And the custody are separate. Generally, that's viewed as a best practice from an overall safety and security perspective. And then secondly, they're a licensed entity, we're a licensed entity, and it all kind of works. Now, what we announced, and the reason that we're really wanting to be vocal about this right now is they're also creating an off-exchange settlement network, the Go network, and we're an early participant in that network, and we're anxious for more institutions to adopt it. What that enables people to do is be extremely, and when I say people, primarily institutions, they can realize some really great capital efficiencies by participating in trading, but not having to move money off and on and off and on and off and on the exchange. So really powerful new opportunity. There's some other networks out there as well, which we're looking at, but BitGo is primary for us.
I'd love to take a quick step away from Bitstamp and just focus on Bobby for a second. While doing research for the show, I learned that you are a triathloner. And I have one buddy who just did a triathlon. Shout out my buddy Andres. He's a sick puppy. You must be a sick puppy. That's a compliment, by the way. Anyone who does a triathlon, I'm always like, whoa. I used to be a runner. I can run. I can throw in a pair of shoes and still put up a good 5K, 10K time. I feel like most people can bike, but doing all three, the swimming, like I'm a decent athlete. And when I get in the water, that's a whole new different beast. Like what went through your head the first time when you're like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do a triathlon? And walk me through some of the training you have to do. Cause that's just, that can't be fun. That's nightmare fuel for me, Bobby. I don't know how you do that.
Well, gosh, I love to talk about this topic. I was a runner for a long time before I ended up in the triathlon space. But I'll give you the straight dope here on how I ended up here. How I ended up here was, a very good friend of mine's wife got sick, and he wanted to raise money to help find a cure for her sickness, and he asked me to do a triathlon with him, and I couldn't say no, of course. And I was highly motivated to help any way that I could. But I will be honest with you. I said, yes, absolutely, I will do that sign up. But in my mind, I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? I can't swim a mile. I've done a dozen or so Olympic distance triathlons, and I've done a half Ironman distance as well. And I've learned a couple of things. So firstly, running is obviously a great form of exercise and mental health, and has all these benefits. But what I've learned is, as I've become more of a triathlon focused endurance athlete, is it's a fairly narrow exercise compared to like swimming. Swimming uses so many muscles; it's a completely different kind of workout. And I really love that now. So I started hating swimming, but now swimming's my favorite.
Now you love it.
And then cycling too. Different kind of workout that creates different kind of what we call VO2, drain on your body. And so yeah, I love that it's varied, and I love that it's always a test. It's always a test of you. And the last thing I would say about it is, to your point about the beatdown side of it, the training is takes a lot of time, just takes a lot of investment. Yeah. But it's easier to do it when, half the reason I do it is because when I have a race on the calendar, I gotta do it. Like, I do not want to drown. So it's really motivating to get out there and work out. So yeah, I highly encourage you to try it, Matt. Put it on the calendar.
My knees, I've torn my pretty much A to Z CLs. I do not have knees, so it's a little difficult for me. The swimming part's actually the easiest on the knees. But yeah, anytime I run more than 10 clicks, the next day, my knees are the size of softballs. So, but another question in regards to the being an endurance athlete, how many sort of aha moments or how many incredible business ideas or just states of mental clarity have you achieved while being on one of these runs or bikes? Personally, I can't see myself thinking of anything good while I'm, swimming 2 miles. I think I'd just be focusing on not drowning or getting eaten by a shark. But I know when I've gone on longer runs or walks before, I've had some of my most clear mental states, mental thoughts, and have thought of some really good things. Have you had the same thing as me or thousands of other people?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's maybe the best part of it because I think it's so therapeutic. I think it teaches your body and your muscle memory and your head resilience. Like, because you always, if you're running or swimming or whatever you're doing, it's hard, and you have to push yourself through those moments when you want to stop or you're doubting yourself. And once you do, I feel like, your mind opens to new possibilities and they come with, ideas or thoughts, or, sometimes for me, it's just a recognition of something that's actually okay. Something I was concerned about that's actually okay.
Well said.
It's going to be
Well
okay,
said.
or what have you. So, and swimming is very Zen. It's all technique. It's all technique. So again, you have something to think about all the time, but then there's that other part of your brain that starts to operate. It's a great observation. I really love that side of it.
I've never gotten into flow state while swimming before. I don't think I ever will, and I'm a decent swimmer. My grandparents had a pool growing up, and I spent a lot of time there, so I'm a good swimmer. But yeah, I definitely don't have a good enough stroke. I'm usually focusing on breathing, or I know you got the perfect one. I know you got the perfect one. I'd love to jump into the hot take factory, Bobby, segment on the show where we let a couple hot takes fly. It doesn't have to be crypto related. Can be health, wealth, happiness, something super spicy like politics, AI, space. But is there anything that's really getting you going at the current moment?
Well, and this is going to sound, absolutely overused at this moment, right? But this AI thing is just continuing to fascinate me, and I've just scratched the surface. I've just been playing around with it a little bit, reading about it, and it's just quite amazing what's possible here. I think we think about the Hollywood side of it, and robots and the Matrix and whatnot, but it's the mundane things that I think are so easily transformed in a very value-added way. Obviously this whole topic has a lot of risk attached to it, and it needs to be managed in a smart way.
Touché.
But I'll give you an example. We at Bitstamp, we have a learn center. So we're, again, as I mentioned, trying to make it very easy for individuals to be educated so that they can participate with confidence if they choose to. And so we have a Learn Center. We have several hundred articles up there that tell you anything from what does multi-chain mean to who is CZ to it's a whole wealth of information, and we grind out all of that content. It's a lot of work, and AI or ChatGPT is one example. Like, that doesn't replace us in terms of creating it, but it gives us a significant leg up. We haven't done this yet, but we're experimenting with it, because if we can get an 80% solution for a piece of content and then bring our expertise to bear on that.
Yes.
First of all, make sure it's correct, but also to, bring it home for the reader. That's an incredible efficiency, and that's mundane. That's not like take over the world or be autonomous. So I'm quite fascinated with that, and just can't underestimate the potential impact on day-to-day lives.
It's so cool. I have a friend of mine who I set up. I'm, again, spending all my free time AI related as well. I have a friend of mine who I just set up, no free ads, so I'm not going to give the name of the software because I would like to partner with them and sell their product because it's so good. But I'm sure you sent your thousands of cold emails back in the day. I'm sure you still send cold emails. There's a couple different pieces of AI software that find your end client and do the hardest part of a cold email, which is make it non-generic. So it would scrape everything Bobby Zagotta related on the internet, and it would go pick a beautiful subject line and go, "Hey Bobby, this is Matt from Matt's Water Company, blah blah blah. We think you should drink more water because," and then it would go, "because you're the CEO of Bitstamp," which obviously everyone can find, but you're also an ultra marathon runner and have ran these marathons and have participated in these triathlons. It autofills all the data on the person too. I was blown away. I actually got one. And when I got it, I contacted the company and I was like, how the hell did you guys do this? CEO took me through a demo. Again, no free ads. Can't give him a shout out, but absolute craziness. One other topic, probably the most trendy topic right now is this, and this is way above my pay grade. I'm not a science guy, but this new semiconductor, I'm sure you've seen this, ZP99 or whatever it's called. Have you seen this craziness going on with that?
I have. The numbers are just staggering.
Crazy. It's looking legit too, by the way. Again, we're still very early, but it's looking like, for the listeners at home, this is the equivalent of almost like discovering fire. Like, it's that crazy.
Yeah, I can't even pretend to understand all the ramifications and implications of it, but just looking at the sheer scale of what is possible on a chip is absolutely game changing. But I got a couple of others. Do you want 2 more?
Yeah, please.
So I don't know where I got this idea, but I read it somewhere, and I've started doing it, and it's been so awesome, which is I take 1 meeting a day on a walk, right? So, as many of us are, my schedule is pretty full and I'm going from meeting to meeting to meeting. And most of them are remote. So, I take one on my phone, put in my AirPods, go for a walk for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I'm not trying to work out per se, but putting your body in motion brings about some of what we were talking about, kind of clears your head. The person you're talking to, also, they're like, wow, I want to do that. So I think it's just very healthy. It feels healthy. And it leads to better conversations, I think. So I'm super into that right now.
I do that every morning, 8 to 9. That's my, I go for a walk downtown Toronto at the harbor front, and it's a great way to start the day. We're in kilometers, not miles, but again, my hour meeting is usually between 5 and 6 kilometers. What's that? 3-4 miles kind of thing. And I look at my watch and I'm like, oh, I just burned 200 calories, got 5,000 steps in and walked 5 kilometers. It's the absolute best. You and I are in the same yacht with that one. What's number 3?
Beautiful. Oh, the next one is I'm in nature at the moment, and there's something incredibly centering about it. And, I live in the city, I live in Chicago, and I love it there. But there's something very, very centering about staring at water, breathing different air. Walking through a forest, it used to be like recreation, but now for me, it's like critical, necessary for kind of mind and body health. So that's my other hot take.
It's prescribed. The doc prescribes that Bobby must spend X amount of time at the lake house per year. I love that.
Exactly.
I love that. I am jealous of your background, I must say. I'm very grateful for my beautiful view of Toronto right now, Rogers Centre, CN Tower, Lake Ontario, but I would do bad things to be where you are, my friend. But Bobby, this has been an absolute treat. Thank you so much for coming on. Had a blast, learned a ton. Can't wait for round 2. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you and Bitstamp online and on socials?
That's basically it. At Bobby Zagotta, at Bitstamp. We're on Twitter and LinkedIn a lot, and all the other usual suspects.
You got it.
Or I should say X.
Yes. I guess we'll conclude with that. Do you believe in Muskie's vision? Do you think he's going to turn this into not only the global town square, but a global payment network or whatever the heck he has planned?
All I can say about that is I wouldn't count him out.
Yeah. Don't bet against that man.
Yeah, I wouldn't count him out. I like the vision seems, not intuitive for me, but I'm not an expert on the Twitter business. But like I said, I wouldn't count him out. He seems to find ways to innovate in meaningful ways. So,
yeah, he's the man. I'm a betting man, and that is one man that I would never bet against. Elon, we'd still love to have you on the show if you're listening, by the way. I'm positive that you would you'd make a great guest, and I'd dig up some good dirt on you. But Bobby, really appreciate your time. This was an absolute treat. Learned a ton, and can't wait for round 2. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, man. It's been a blast.
Folks, what an episode with Bobby Zagotta, U.S. CEO and Chief Commercial Officer at Bitstamp. Told some great stories, dropped tons of knowledge bombs, and had some good hot takes as well. We love to see that. As always, I will include everything Bobby and Bitstamp related in the show notes. If you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe. To the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Eustace, my amazing sound editor, appreciate you as always. You are the man. And to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.